good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you happen to be listening. I am excited for the chance today to welcome Bobbie Shrivastav to the show and get a chance to get to know her better. She is the co-founder and chief product officer of Benekiva, a claims insurtech product. So I'm excited to get to understand her journey a little bit better and, all the fun things that she has coming up. So welcome to the show, Bobbie. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for inviting me. Doing great. It's Friday. It's been an awesome week. So this is a great way. I haven't had a chance to meet you in person, so got to see you virtually. So this has been awesome.
Yes. So I think that as Bobbie and I were talking before we hopped on here and formally hit record, we have been at events together. I have watched Bobbie in recaps of events, and so gotten to know her a little bit that way. But this is exciting for us to really kind of dig in and spend some extra time together today. So I am excited for this. And yes, it is a beautiful Friday afternoon. I think we deserve some downtime together.
Absolutely.
So how is life in North Carolina? What is the, because we've all been in kind of this weird reality. Yeah. So whether we want to accept it or not, it's a little bit different than it was, at this time a year ago. So did you guys get to have a 4th of July celebration? What are things like right now for you guys?
So for the first, I think when the lockdown happened in North Carolina back in March, even Savannah, I have a daughter, so she was going to preschool and they completely shut down and they did virtual learning. So imagine virtual learning at age 4. It was awesome. It was a good experience for her because she had to learn Zoom, and I think she figured out Zoom better than most other people would have. But it was unique. I always used to share that conference calls at 4. I don't think I've ever heard of that. So yeah. Now we can all say we've faced that. If you have kids, that almost everybody was using some form of virtual learning during that period.
Yeah.
But I think as things got to open up and relax a little bit in North Carolina, the first thing her school did was they opened it up, but with very, very cautiously.
Yeah.
So she's actually, which has been great, because before it was just, I was working like the afternoon through late evening, and then it was just a mess because she needed morning time to focus, and somebody really needed to be there. I couldn't attend a lot of meetings, or if I did meetings, she was on over here sitting. I don't know. I don't even know how many times I had Zoom bombs. Where I'm having a conversation, but it's all good. But from a 4th of July, we didn't have fireworks because in North Carolina, cases are just going out of whack, and that's with a lot of cities, a lot of states, and in the U.S. So, but we are being very creative. So instead of being, hey, depressed about it, we just found we're making lemonade out of lemons. So we've been doing a lot of outdoor activities where we're doing social distancing. So bring your own chair, and we're doing kind of like the potluck themes with our friends. She's playing, but it's hard for kids to be socially distanced, but we're trying to monitor that. So we're making it, we're doing things, we're doing more things outdoors. So we're surviving. And it's not been that bad. It's actually been good because we're doing more things outdoors versus, going to places. And so it's been great.
Yeah.
Great to see that.
I would say it's certainly forced everybody out of a routine.
Oh, yes.
If you had kind of gotten bogged down in routine and really set in your ways, it was kind of like this call to, we have to learn to be flexible and adapt. Because I think we resist change as humans, and it was kind of like, well, this is going to be forced upon you, and you can either work with it or you can try and frustrate yourself by working against it. And so I'd say the happier population was finding ways to make it work.
Yeah. And honestly, for me, I used to travel a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So from a routine perspective, I was bad to begin with, because travel, you don't have a routine as much. You try to get a routine over the weekend if you're lucky. But I think with this, I actually was on a different podcast before this. We talked about, like, a lot of us are focusing more on health and fitness. So a lot of us on the call were like, we haven't seen each other in a while. One of my buddies lost like 70 pounds. So it's it's that renewed focus on health, like, once again, making lemonade out of lemons, focus on, like, now we have an opportunity to focus on health, focus on mindset. There's so many tools available. You don't really have to go to a gym, just do burpees.
Yes. Yeah. Just do burpees. That takes care of a lot. Oh my gosh. Oh. Yeah. I mean, I think, like, for me, it was almost like reacquainting myself with my kids in new ways, because we had gotten so caught up, like, everybody was going different directions all the time, and then we couldn't anymore. Like, we really were just kind of like stuck looking at one another and, trying to have something new and fresh to do, like, every morning. It kind of forced us to just, like, think differently than we had for a long time. Cause I was like, I have to have an answer as soon as they come up here and tell me that they're bored. Like, I gotta know what we're going to do. And I'm not going to, like, some projects completely bombed. We tried to make rock candy. It did not work. All I had was orange and blue and green syrup all over my kitchen. But we tried some science experiments. Not all of them were as fruitful as others, but yeah, I mean, it was a matter of making the best of what was just kind of a weird situation, and it's still very real right now. We're certainly seeing more flexibility here in Iowa, but I will say that my kids are a lot more grateful for that opportunity to go sit down in a restaurant. That, because it's like all those little things that we took for granted as just part of life weren't there anymore. And so I remember the first time I took them out to eat a couple of weeks ago, they were just like we're gonna stay in here and we're gonna sit down. And I said, yeah, that's exactly what we're gonna do. And they were just like floored. So I do kind of like the fact that we had to refocus on, creativity, gratitude, looking for the things to, like, choosing optimism.
Yeah.
So yeah. I will, I think there's silver linings in every hard situation. So yeah. But I think we lit off our own fireworks. But there's somebody that was telling me, and I don't remember what city this was. It's only been a week. I feel like I should remember this, but they were telling me that they lived in a city. So they let the fireworks off in different areas of the city, so that people wouldn't, like, flock to one place. You could sit out on your lawn or whatever, and you could watch these go off without them having to worry about people pulling into crowds to do it. We had, like, a light fireworks display. It wasn't like a real long one or anything, but everybody just had to sit in their cars and watch it. So I do, it's kind of fun to see how we've created a new sense of fun.
Had to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or else it's just, there's so much pressure. There's, this is different for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I think, if you can figure out a way to look at the brighter side, or making, like, hey, let's do things a little bit different. Yes, I miss this. I miss going to a bar, I miss going to a restaurant, but now I can support a small business and be very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can just get mocktails from them and make my own drinks at home, but I'm still supporting them. So it's just a different way of looking and hoping this is temporary, because
I certainly do hope it's temporary. Oh my gosh. I do. I am going to say, and I'm sure you're feeling this too, I'm missing conferencing.
Me too.
I miss people. I miss that the networking and the sharing of ideas. And not that that's not happening, like we're learning how to make that happen in a really virtual sense. But just the relationship building when you're in person, and you're there's so much collaboration that happens at those events, I feel like. But I do think like we're doing the best that we can to make sure that we're continuing to stay in contact and share things with one another. But yeah, the first conference, I don't know, it'll be interesting. I don't know when it will be or how it will be, but
yeah, that would be, well, I mean, a lot of us were hoping that things would clear up for September's ITC.
yeah,
But that's just not feasible, and they've made it into a whole 1 month event,
yeah,
which is great. But it's just you're on conference calls all the time.
yeah,
So the last thing I want is to see something online, because I'm done with the, like we call it, zoomed out. My brain can't function, and plus the networking is not the same.
yeah.
I think some of the apps are trying. I don't think anybody's like really cracked it, but I think it's human nature. Like we want to talk in person,
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that first one. Whenever it happens to take place, I will be there. But at this point, I'm just I don't know, like I'm probably driving the people at the restaurants crazy. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna order very slowly and hang out for a really long time. And the produce guy at the grocery store is probably like, stop talking to me. Are you lonely? Well, I mean, we're getting there. How's that broccoli looking today? Oh my gosh. So changing directions just a little bit here. I want to get to know, like, just understand your journey. You're obviously like an entrepreneur. You've got a lot of credentials behind your name. So a lot of history there. So just walk us through like how you got started, like what brought you to develop the product that you guys have now. And I'm also curious about the history behind this name too.
Absolutely. So I've been in corporate right after undergrad. I jumped into, the workforce, and I was more on the technologist side. So if you think about the software development life cycle, I've played pretty much every role within that life cycle, because I love technology. I love creating things. That people talk about makers, how they make things. I'm a maker when it comes to technology. So
Yeah.
I've done it. I've been a developer before. And now I do more on the product side, where, you're architecting the business side of the house, right? So you're a solutions architect, you're figuring out client needs and how you're going to turn that into reality. And a lot of my role in corporate really like allowed me to get those experiences, such as how do you manage a development team? How do you manage offshore resources? How do you manage like multi-million dollar initiatives? So those, I mean, when you work with a carrier, when you're implementing things in a carrier, those things, those obstacles and those barriers, like I kind of know, because I've been in that behemoth organization managing those initiatives. So when I jumped into entrepreneurship, and this is a funny story, it was when my daughter Savannah was 6 months old. My husband had this fantastic idea about, he was like looking at these these production issues for one of his startup clients, and he's like, Bobbie, if we did this, it would solve their problem. Yeah. So when he was explaining to me like this theory, this vision that he had, I was like, man, if you did X, Y, and Z, we could, like, at that point, my first startup was DocSmart. I was like, we can take over DocuSign. People hate DocuSign, but we can make DocuSign plus, like DocuSign on steroids.
Yeah.
Which led us on an entrepreneurship path, right? So we had to figure out what we're building, did it make sense? And while we were working full time and had a baby. But it was fun. I think when people get like a life event, they go crazy. They go, like, I jumped into startups. But that path is what led us to meeting Brent Williams. So when we were in Iowa, so I shared that Soven went to Drake. We have Iowa roots.
Go Iowa!
I was like, if we're gonna go visit our family for 2 weeks, we're gonna like do some business stuff on the side, like our side hustle.
Yep.
So that led us to meeting the mayor of Clive, Iowa.
Yep.
Tiny suburb of Des Moines. So she's like listening to this and she's like, oh, this is so cool. You got to meet Brent. And we're like, who's Brent? He's like, oh, he's got this technology thing in the insurance side. He would love what you guys are doing. So she calls Brent up, and Brent is at that time, he's a financial advisor for a very large insurance company.
Okay.
We have a meeting with him. We had lunch at Centro in Des Moines, if you know Des Moines. So, and Brent talks about his financial advisory practice, and we're thinking, is he solving something in financial advisory? But all the time I was like, we don't really care about the products and services. We care more about what you're creating in the insurance space. And that's when he's like, oh, you want to listen to my startup. And I'm like, yeah, the research that he's been doing. And at that point, when we were in Iowa for 2 weeks, I don't even know how many times we met Brent, and had became like a family.
Yeah.
So we heard about all the issues he faced as an advisor when servicing customers. A life event, like a death happened. How is he dealing with the beneficiaries? Sharing all this research and stories with us. Soven and I had just bought life insurance policy because Savannah at that point was like a year old. We bought a couple of life products. We're like, are you telling me that there's not a technology solution that's clean, that people still have to go through this really antiquated process? So we are like, okay, I know we're working on docs more, but let's focus on this. So that's when we started to like really put attention to what is now called Benekiva. And Benekiva really is if you think about the word Benekiva, Beni short for beneficiary, Kiva is chamber of all a chamber for all. So Benekiva is a chamber of all beneficiaries. That's where the name originated, because we wanted to build something that my beneficiary is my daughter. She doesn't have to go through all this painful process. If something happens to me, how do you notify them? How do you keep things updated? Then you think about the whole claims value chain. Now we had to solve, some of the insurtechs are solving like one piece of it. Hey, we'll just make the first notice of loss easy. But we know if you're in the industry, and I worked for a division of AIG called UIG. So I know, like, from a claims perspective, you can't just solve the first piece. You've got to figure out how do you build that 360 experience, or else it's gonna fall. I can give you a very good customer experience, but guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna face it during payment, or you're not gonna get the status because you're not solving the whole claims value chain. So in order to do that, it took us, we call it like our 2-year silent ninja phase, but we had to do that to really conceptualize, okay, here's what we need to make sure, like our MVP. So we can't just go live with our first notice of loss. We have to really make sure the claim staff was happy. So we love our claim staff, folks. Organizations, because they really want to do a good job. They just don't have technology.
Oh yeah. So it was really a matter of, well, obviously identifying a problem, because I think sometimes like technology is fixing something that's not broken, right? It may be a
tiny object.
But you guys really identified a problem, and then making sure that you understood every step and micro step that was contributing to that entire process.
And we started off with life, because Brent had industry knowledge, right? This was his vision, right? He's like, I'm tired of, as an advisor, dealing with a crappy claims process. I want to go build it, right?
Yep.
And we said, yep, let's do it. But when you choose something like life, it's not as easy as like the PNC side of the house, because life is a lot of different, every data point has different documents. They live in requirements galore. There's the adjudication process can be varied based on so many different factors. So we have to build that complexity, but do it in a simpler way. So it doesn't it doesn't take like years to implement this. For us, it takes weeks to put something in place where they can get efficiencies and be up and running in a matter of weeks to a couple of months versus years.
Yeah.
Your traditional software, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you know, we talk about this in insurance so much that claims are like one of our moments of truth, where you're either showing up and creating a great experience, or you're falling short and just potentially really damaging the relationship that you've established with the client, because this is what they've been paying for. And now it's not delivering on the value that they necessarily expected. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, and what I love about this is like, there's so many things to innovate. Like, it's just like, I would have been like, oh yeah, this claims process is kind of a pain because of this, this, and this. But then, you know, combining that pain point with the skills that you guys have, like that's amazing to just, I mean, what a great meeting of the minds in terms of being able to put all of those pieces together.
It was like fate, right? Like how many times can an introduction from the mayor of Clive can bring three people together, and now he's family, right? Consider each other family, and we've built our team. We started off with 3, now we've got over 30. I just hired 4 more people this week. I've had a great week, but I hired 4 people, and 2 of them will be very high level folks helping us on the implementation and on the product side. So that we can focus, as founders can focus on strategy, where are we going, versus doing like the day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole like on the business or in the business type of thing. So yeah, that's great that you guys have been able to, I mean, that's a lot of growth in a short amount of time.
Yeah, we launched in 2018 of March with one carrier. And after 9 months, we went to 3. We were up to 3, and now we're working with over 10.
Wow.
So it's been crazy.
Yeah. So, and what claims are you guys working with currently?
So on the life and health side, so
Okay.
think about any type of life annuities. We're even doing a POC on disability, because disability is another very antiquated process.
Confusing. Yep.
And now with COVID, you have to think like, what's the implication of disability claims to the end user who needs the money? They may not be getting paid. So they may have issues. So how do you help them? So we're doing a couple of POCs on disability with some large carriers to streamline that process, so they can quickly service those claims without having to wait the long term. So anything so on the health side, it's interesting. On the health side, we've been talking to folks about automating some of the med sup claims.
Oh yeah.
So I call it the automation of the automation. So most engines exist where you can auto adjudicate a Medicare claim, but there's still fallouts, and fallouts typically happen in Excel spreadsheets. So we've taken it a step further, and we've kind of created workflow, and based on the different actions that users are going to take, now we can start automating some of those fallouts, so that people don't even have to, if you know that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, or your engine is mainframe and you're not going to be able to update, we can apply a rules layer that can quickly process those claims and even adjudicate more claims than you typically would have.
Yeah, I think anytime you can take friction out of the claims process, like it's
a win-win, right?
Powerful stuff. I mean, and I'm sure that you're watching this continue to evolve as more needs are identified.
Yeah, what we're seeing is we started with claims, and now when you start looking at the servicing side of the house, servicing the claim has the same similar issues.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, like to your point, moments of truths. How do you make it easy? You know, there's some folks, they love their fax machines. Let's not get rid of that because we're going to force this digital agenda on them.
Yeah.
But we can still do it in a digital way where they can still have the comfort of using that technology, but make it easier for the claim staff so they're not like having to go through fax bins
Yeah.
and saying, is this your fax? Is this your fax? Because we're joking about this, but the reality is that's the process
Yeah.
that a lot of carriers are having. So how do we automate that, and how do we make it easy to give it to somebody to take action upon instead of doing this chasing, this paper chasing? This, folks don't want to do that. You know, folks want their lives easier. They want to do their jobs and they want to pay the claims. So how do we empower them to get ability to get the job done?
Yeah.
It's a big theme that we try to improve on. It's not like we're cutting by implementing Benekiva, you're not going to cut jobs. You're going to make their jobs easier,
Yeah.
so that you can use the same workforce as you scale to additional products. Now you've got your awesome workforce that can tackle on more.
Yeah. Yeah. So really creating efficiency is
Yeah.
really, and it's funny because there is kind of that knee-jerk reaction, right? If we get too efficient, then somebody loses a job. But really, it just allows you to grow and expand.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is two completely different thought processes. But yeah, I mean, I think if you can kind of say, if we could do this better, faster, what does that enable us to add?
Yeah.
Or what else could we be doing better? What can we then focus on once we've resolved this problem? And so it's amazing that you guys are definitely filling a gap that has been there for a long time.
No, we're excited. I mean, we've fallen in love. I think I don't know if you follow Patrick West on Twitter.
Oh, yes.
So he had this post, I think, the other day about how some of the insurtechs are talking about how they don't like the insurance industry, and he's like, "Isn't that the same thing?" And it's like you've got to fall in love. Like once you start this path, you're gonna fall in love with the industry, like we have.
Yeah.
Like I came from, financial services, even with the mortgage insurance industry side. I was on the tech side, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't deal with the business angle of MI. I knew enough to understand some of those concepts, but I didn't work in the business. But when you work with, we've interviewed over 400 people in the claim staff, when you see what they want to do, you just build that empathy.
Yes.
And you fall in love with I've fallen in love with the insurance industry. I think there's so much good that our industry does. I think there's good technology players there. Let's just, help, let's not say, oh, I hate the behemoth, it's not that. It's how do you make it so that they're operating it better, right?
Yeah.
That they're servicing their clients better.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I fully agree. Insurance may not be for everybody, but I think once you start to you're like, I'm kind of liking this. And then, yeah, you are just kind of like head over heels in love with it for whatever reason. I talked about I think it was just yesterday. I was telling somebody, I tried to leave insurance. I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go a different direction with my career. And 13 months later, I was back in the industry. It just was, it is kind of it's part of who I am. So, but yeah, I mean, and honestly, I can't imagine a better industry, so much passion, so much innovation going on right now. We're watching the story continue to evolve in everything that we do. And I love it because I feel like while there is a lot of staleness that still exists in our industry, we're also watching a lot of just evolution going on right now. Mm-hmm. And so seeing those people that are have that fire under them, no, I want to figure out how to solve this because it's needed. We're watching all of those stories now be told. And I think it's so much fun to watch this now. being in the industry for 15 years and thinking how far we've come just in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Like amazing. It's like, it was like, I don't even know. It's like we went into warp speed. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Warp speed. That's exactly what I was looking for. We went into warp speed on innovation. So I think it's been a lot of fun. I'm curious though, have you always had like this entrepreneurial spirit, or how did that come about? Because I feel like either you are or you're not. Like and maybe you can develop it, but I think that like there's a lot of innate qualities when it comes to being an entrepreneur. I'm not one, so I maybe shouldn't judge, but.
So I come from a family of entrepreneurs.
Ah.
So, I mean, I think I wrote this article a long time ago. So there was an organization locally called Hustle, and they interviewed, like, what's everybody's hustle? And it really made me think about, like, hustle, entrepreneurship. Where did this really like stem from? And when I look at my roots, I'm from, my family's from India, but
Mm-hmm.
the part of India that they're from is a state which is now in Pakistan. It's called Sindh. It was Sindh, Pakistan, or Sindh is now in Pakistan. But before the partition, when India was all one, it was that state. And my grandparents had to flee, just because of the partition.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about the stories, they had to become very entrepreneurial. So my grandfather had to travel to Hong Kong and start a new life. So when you're thinking about entrepreneurs, it's starting something new. Like you had to leave, my grandparents had to leave everything behind and start from scratch. My grandfather went to Hong Kong, and my uncle then went to Hong Kong to kind of, say, hey, I'm going to now, and when he was in Hong Kong, he would sell, he was coming to the US to sell tailor-made suits. Very entrepreneurial, like it was his business, right?
Yep.
So that's, I think, where I get it from, is my, heritage is, and Sindhi people, it's a joke, like Indian people like get it and they start laughing. It's we're entrepreneurs. Like we are known for having shops and stores and just running our own business. When growing up, I always thought, yeah, I'll own something, but it was owning something like from a store, because that's what I saw my uncle doing.
Yeah.
Like he had a clothing store in North Carolina. And then, like it's not surprising that I'm an entrepreneur, because it's that, I don't own a physical entity like a store, but I'm a co-founder of Benekiva.
Yeah.
I own another startup. So it's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see, like your roots and how they really shape you to the person. Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned that get passed down in cultural history. Like my parents, my dad was in Africa, and that's where my brother was born. And then they had a coup and they had to come to the US, and that's where I was born. But like it's like that struggle, but that struggle made us who we are.
Yeah.
Which is very entrepreneurial. We have no problems facing change, facing hardships.
Yeah.
It's our part of our DNA.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, there's a certain amount of like, this might seem scary, but I'm going for it because this is who I am. This is how I take on problems. I don't try and work around them. I try and just dive right into them. So yeah, I think that's, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Quite the life that your family has lived to. Yeah. I mean, wow. So how many of your family members are in the US then?
Mostly all.
Okay.
I do have a couple of like aunts and on my dad's side of the family in India, but with the Sindh culture or with our group, we're kind of like, we call it the Mongs of China, because we don't have land. We're kind of dispersed. So I have cousins in every continent except for Antarctica. Which makes it cool, but also not cool. Like, when folks talk about family gatherings, they have so many massive cousins. Like my husband's, whenever I go to Nepal, that's where my husband's from, when we have family gatherings, there's so many of them that can easily congregate. I don't have that luxury. My cousins are in Philippines and South America and Africa. There's not a way that we can do a family gathering without missing key people.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, yeah, that would be hard. Yeah.
But we get to visit new places.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, my dad came from Vietnam, but I have not, one of these days I hope to get there, but yeah, there's like a whole side of my family that I haven't ever even met yet. So yeah, I mean, but otherwise my family's primarily spread around the US, and even that seems like a lot to try and get everybody together. So I can't even imagine having everybody literally spread out across the world. That would be,
it's cool, but it's also like, then I didn't grow up with a lot of family, it was just my brother and I. My cousin was in Virginia, but that's trade-offs, right? Then it's when I met Soven, I was welcomed up, became part of his big family. So
yeah. So yeah, you got a pretty good family as well. You married into a good family. That's good. So when you look back on, the experiences that you've had in life, what is one of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
I think the biggest lesson I would say is the whole notion of imposter syndrome.
Mm.
I wish I'd known about that
Yes.
when in my younger, like when I was rising up in corporate, because I think I let go of so many opportunities just because I felt like, oh, I may have not been qualified, even though I love my journey thus far. But I think that's the biggest lesson, is to be self-aware that imposter syndrome does exist, even as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You sometimes doubt, right? Oh, but it's like you gotta like cope with it and give yourself affirmations that nope, you are qualified, you're making it happen. So forget about all the noise.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, is to really not let the imposter syndrome get in the way.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot where it has gotten in the way, and you then you learn, then you figure it out. I'm like, oh, I could have done this. They hired a guy that didn't have much qualities, and I could have done that 10 times better.
Yeah. It is. We sell ourselves short.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like everybody else around you can see. They're like, no, you totally could do that. And you're like, no, I don't think I could. But yeah, I think being aware of it. But yeah, I would agree. I don't think I did not even hear of imposter syndrome until probably about 2 years ago, and then really started researching it. But it's so common. But yeah, I mean, it is. And it's hard to get around it. But I think like you probably look at, even like with raising your daughter now, it's like, how do I, create that environment of self-awareness for her so that she's, checking in and building that confidence that, hopefully she probably can't completely avoid it, but maybe avoid a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's true. It's how do you bring some of the leadership concepts that we've learned in our adult life and just start to introduce them when they're younger. One of my friends, I used to work at the Center for Creative Leadership.
Okay.
So that was just a fascinating organization. And one of the things, one of the very fundamental concepts is the notion of feedback. So how do you give good feedback?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've brought to the team, because don't say, oh, I don't, you hurt my feelings. You've got to say, what was the situation? What's the behaviors, the SBI model? What's the situation, behavior, and what was the impact? So now I can make very good, like if you follow that framework, now I can tell you exactly the situation, behavior, impact, and it's going to be more meaningful from a feedback perspective versus generalizing, giving general concepts. Or you probably know this, getting feedback that happened 6 months ago because you forgot the situation. You're not going to remember that.
Yeah.
So it really forces people, like when you're looking at feedback and we're looking at the end of the year review, or, for my staff, like if I want to influence change, the best thing to do is communication. and allowing them, giving them that feedback. But take that feedback and incorporate that into your youngin, because guess what? Now they know how to give feedback to you as a parent, to their colleagues, and it's just going to be a very good way. Instead of saying, I'm not happy, say, what happened? You know, like, so that those are things that I'm loving incorporating. Some of the things that I've learned, trying to try to make it so it's 5-year-old can consume it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, setting up that groundwork.
Yeah. I think that's, you're raising a future leader. I love it.
At Soven, she's going to become a coder in the next couple of years.
Oh my gosh. Well,
her first word was database, which is sad.
That's I've never heard anybody say that before. That is hilarious. That's also a very big word.
I don't know what she's talking about, but she would hear us talking about APIs and database. One time she just looked at my husband and Soven, he's like, yeah, this API thing you need to fix. And I'm like, she has no clue what she's saying, but this sounds so cute.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I love it. I love that. She's obviously very aware of what you guys do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is fantastic. So when you look back on this amazing career that you have building this product, who has impacted you on this journey?
The person that comes to my mind is my mom. And the reason is, when a little bit of background. So when my mom first came to the US, and then she had to go back to India because my grandparents were getting sick. And when she came back, so we went to India. I lived there for 5 years. And when we came back, when I was age 10, she started from nothing.
Yeah.
Ground zero. And I saw her, and I was old enough to recognize that she started off with, my dad at that point decided not to join us. He came a year later, but my mom had to do everything from raising us as children to learning how to drive to getting a job for the first time, because when she was in India, she didn't have to worry about a job because she was a stay-at-home mom. But then when she came here, it was, she got a job, she learned how to drive, she rented a house so all these first I got to witness at a very young age, but at an age that I remember. And I just saw her. And I think the best thing that has influenced me was she always had a smile on her face, and she taught me the value of hard work.
Yeah.
And never being dependent on anyone. And I think that's when you think about those lessons, like as an entrepreneur, hard work. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of discipline, but you have to always have that smile on your face when things are very, very, very south.
Yeah.
And things are, like I've got a team of 30 people. So we've got to sometimes it's sucky times, and you're going to have this positive attitude. You can't get into that negativity. So I've learned a lot of that from watching my mom cope with very hard times, but then coming out being successful. And that's just, she's been an inspiration. She's been like a rock for us.
I love that. That's beautiful. I mean, and to have it happen at an age where you could really understand it and appreciate it, and then actually implement it. Not everybody does, but you have really embraced everything that she taught you. I love it.
I thank her for instituting the values, right? It's so much easier nowadays to skip, allow your children to skip out on the opportunity, like, hey, just focus on studies. Don't worry about work, because I can provide. Man, working, like when I started working when I could legally do it at age 16. It just taught me balance, right? How do I balance schoolwork with friend life, with work, right? But it teaches you so many lessons. But my mom, she was like, oh, if you want something, you're going to go get out and get it, right? So those are lessons that I loved, because I think if she would have skipped out on it, it wouldn't have made me, like it wouldn't have made me who I am now.
Yeah.
I'm constantly in awe. She's, she's retired, but she's just been such an amazing inspiration, and I just hope I don't let her down. That's
Oh, I don't think there's any chance of that at all. I think that's wonderful. And I'm sure you're showing up the same way in your daughter's life, which is absolutely amazing. So when you think about, when you were younger and you've now built this amazing career, if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think just so, because like hard work is important, and in our culture studies are valued more than actually like play, like outdoor play. And even though my mom encouraged it, but that was like our normal tendencies, like what we, I did my kindergarten through fourth grade in India. It's just, study, 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 that will make you a better person. That's the media too, right?
Yep.
So I think what I would have said to my younger self is been more, get into sports. Now I'm doing sports at an adult age, which is awesome. But I know that if I was a little bit younger and doing those activities, it would have been better, like it would have been a different experience.
Yeah.
Not focus so much on the academic side of the house. So that's one of the lessons. And honestly, it took me after my undergrad, after my first master's degree, my second master's degree is where I learned that lesson, as stop focusing on academics, look at the application side of the house, because that's where the true learning is.
Yeah.
These are just concepts and theories, but when you actually run a business, when you actually go through this concept in real world, so much more better than don't worry about the A. Be happy with, I got my first C in MBA, my first C ever. But I was okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's that's huge, because like you can get very caught up. Like I was listening to this conversation about new math, which I am not a math wizard at all by any means.
Yeah, I've heard of like how they're teaching math nowadays.
Right. But like before it was either you got the right answer or you didn't. And now they're dissecting the entire problem and saying, you got this mostly right. And we're going to give you credit for getting it mostly right. You got off right here at the last step of this long equation. And that's why you got the wrong answer. So really like I'm not going to say, like when I first heard about new math, I was not thrilled about new math. But then as like I understood the concept around it, like if you just say you got the wrong answer, it's kind of stopping kids in their tracks and probably not teaching them to really understand like where they went wrong. And so now they're really like approaching it from much more of a true problem solving and not a black and white math. I understand math is black and white, but leading up to the answer, there's a lot going on there. And so, yeah, I mean, I do love this idea of saying like, okay, like, have I learned what I need to learn here? Maybe my grades don't look amazing, but I've learned something that I'm now going to be able to go and apply to something in my future or something that I'm working on right now. But yeah, I mean, I think it can be super easy to get caught up on what's on paper and not what's going on up here.
I just remember torturing myself to like get everything right, be that perfectionist. And it's like at the end of the day, it didn't matter. I mean, it matters, the work matters, but not like getting it to 100%, right? So in our MVP land, it's the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. Like, I wish I'd known that. That's the lesson to me, is don't focus on so much of the perfection. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the experience, enjoy making a C. I may not tell my daughter that right off the gate, but
Yeah. Let's go for the A's, and then we'll ease on, ease on the accelerator a little bit. But yeah, like I have a 13-year-old who, like, just, it's been a different process. And part of it is just that I'm raising my kids differently than the way that I was raised, but really trying to understand how he learns, what he wants to do with his future, and then making sure that we're, like, giving him the appropriate opportunities to really learn about the things that are going to be most important to, like, his ultimate goal, and not getting caught up on the stuff that, like, he's not going to write a novel. I don't need to get super caught up in how well he's performing in English class. Does he need to know some basic things? Absolutely. Is this an area of emphasis for him 20 years from now? Probably not. And so I think, yeah, I mean, and he's not a perfectionist. He has taught me a lot about letting that go, for sure. So yeah, he's a little more kicked back and relaxed than I am. So, which is good. I needed somebody to do that in my life, for sure. So you've become this entrepreneur, or you always were. And so now you're executing on all of that entrepreneurial spirit that you were raised with. And, you're just, like, taking those risks, stepping into fear, investing heavily in a business from both time, money, energy, all of that. Like, you have channeled it all into an amazing project. Which I think is, like, incredibly brave. Like, I love it. I love hearing this story of, I love how the path came together, but also the innovation and collaboration, and just really, you're constantly pushing yourself to improve. How do we just kind of bring more women along into leadership, helping them to take those brave steps? I think we still, like, it's a tough industry. It's very male oriented. And I'm not saying, like, I think there's got to be room for everybody at the table, but how do we create those spaces for women?
I think the first thing is showing up, just like all of us are doing, right? I don't know how many times I've received this where, like, I did a speaking engagement like 10 years ago on technology, and quick story, and the person now who's co-leading women in tech and in our region, or in our city, she was when she attended that conference, and she attended a session that I was co-presenting with two others. She said that she almost was trying to get out of tech because it was so male dominated. She just felt like, just very similar to women in insurance, right? So there's a lot of us, but when you look at as you're trying to go up, there's fewer and fewer and fewer women.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's about showing up. And it's about putting ourselves out there. So speaking at conferences, because when I spoke at that conference 10 years ago with two other male counterparts, she basically told me, she's like, I saw you doing it and said, I can do the same thing. Like, that's awesome, right? So we helped we retained a person to stay in tech just because of just showing up.
Yeah.
Having those leadership positions, really getting ourselves out of the comfort zone. I don't know about you, but when I first started to, like, really apply myself to doing more speaking opportunities, I do it for fun because it's good practice.
Yeah.
But it's very, like, it's becoming comfortable, but it wasn't comfortable like 10 years ago.
Right.
It's scary to say, okay, a group of people is just watching you, and it's there. You go through imposter syndrome.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah. You can talk yourself out of it very quickly, or get off stage and say that was a disaster. Yeah.
And I think if you show up, so you are a good role model, and then creating opportunities where celebrating women, right? If you see a LinkedIn post of a woman entrepreneur or women professional that's achieved something, even if you don't know them, like it, celebrate, because that fuels the fire, right? It motivates other people, it motivates everybody. So celebrate wins, figure out a way to support each other. So if you're in corporate, how do you mentor? And mentor in not in a way like, mentorship sometimes has a bad connotation, but how do you bring them along? How do you become that sponsor? So if you've achieved it, don't assume that it took you 10 years to achieve it, that the next person, it should take 10 years. Like, let's not play those games. Like, let's get more women and expedite their growth, expedite the sponsors, give them constructive feedback so that they can improve that. Because I think a lot of the times, like, executive presence is like a big piece, but that's just executive presence. It's like having good communications skills. How do you manage up? Those are skills that when you're at that level, you can like start to really sponsor women, not just mentor, but sponsor women so they are becoming your peers without feeling threatened. That, you know what I'm saying? That's the bias that we as women have to kind of get it out of our head. It's all about supporting and uplifting and giving opportunities. I'm a big person on, my first hire in the US was a female veteran. I love her, but it's like creating opportunities. Let's not get into our own bias, but create opportunities. The best person for the job will get the job.
Right.
Create opportunities and get them to, when I was interviewing this person, she's like, well, I haven't done this. Imposter syndrome. We know it, right? So let's prevent the other women from not having that. Like, let's encourage them to say, no, you got this, and I'll train you. Just giving them that boost. I think that's the way, in my opinion, that's the way to really kick some glass, right?
I love it. Kick some glass. Is this a thing that I'm not familiar with? I love this saying.
It's a book written by Jennifer Martineau and Portia Mounts, two of my very good friends from CCL, Center for Creative Leadership.
I'm writing this down.
It's a 10 principle. They're just fantastic.
Yeah.
They're just fantastic women that wrote about the research. It's the research behind why women are where we're at, and then how do we break through? Like, how do we kick some glass?
Yeah. I love it. That is fantastic.
I thought the name was awesome.
Yes. I mean, that gets your attention right away, and then you're like, tell me more about this. I mean, it's like, what it means, right? We're familiar with that glass ceiling, but yeah, what a powerful set of words to put behind that. And really, obviously, like, I feel momentum just because of that title. I love it. That's amazing. That's fantastic. So what does the future hold for you? Like, what are you up to? Where's the company going? Like, what do you guys have going on?
So the key for our company is growing to as many insurance carriers so we can provide that superior claims process. But really, as an organization, we're really, as a founding team, starting to really hire very good caliber people so that we can really start to focus on strategy and let other folks focus on the execution. But it's all about the next few years for us is about execution, and really delivering, continue to deliver on our promise. And then personally, I really, in my future, I really want to start looking. Here's the thing. I'm very tired of the stats where women only get like 2% of funding. If you're that's just women. If you're a Black female, you get even less. I'm just at a point that I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just create my own fund, and that's if you want to create change, let's not bitch about it. Let's just create the change. So I'm on a war path of figuring out how do we do that? How do we lessen that? Let's fund more women, And the only way to do that is to create, fund for women. And there's a lot of organizations that are doing that, which is awesome. I want to do that too.
Yeah.
But you
Ah,
can never have too many of them. Right?
no, you can't. That's amazing. I love it. Yeah, there are products that I buy specifically because they fund female startups. So, and I hope that it's all very genuine. You know what I mean? Like sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah. So there are certainly some products that I purchase specifically because I know what their philanthropic efforts are. So yeah, which I love. And I think that's amazing that you're going to be doing that. So are you ready for the secret question, the final question? It's
Throw
not
it at me.
really a big secret, but so if you got to play DJ for 5 minutes, you get to play any song you want. Everybody has to listen to it. What are you going to choose?
Oh my gosh, probably some 90s rock music. I think on my playlist this morning was Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Old school 90s
yep.
Smashing Pumpkins. That's what I play.
Yes, I love it. You know what? Now I'm going to have to listen to them. I have not listened to Smashing Pumpkins in forever, but I do remember as, I don't even know. I don't want to date myself, but I do remember listening to them in my younger years. And then they tried to make a comeback a couple of years ago. I don't think it went so well, but yeah, they were classic, like mid to late 90s, right? Pretty much. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That takes me
back. The classics are coming back. Like before COVID, like some of the concerts the last concert I went to was Puddle of Mud.
Oh my gosh. I haven't heard that name in forever.
And it's so having me, but we're like, hey, they're coming in our town. Let's go see them. It costs $30 and we'll reimagine our childhood days.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I am looking forward to concerts again too. I love concerts.
I know I had missed Elton John was one. Metallica was another one that was coming in our area. Both of them we had to get refunds because I was very excited to seeing both because Elton John was their farewell concert.
Yeah. So then he just did all of it from his house, right? He just was doing live shows from his home. But yeah, not the same. Music in person is always like such an amazing experience. That's why like I love Nashville. I love it because it's like no matter where you go, there's live music going on. Like I love it. So I'm looking forward to like that whole live music experience again in my life for sure. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. Well, this has been amazing, Bobbie. I'm glad that we finally got to like meet face to face as much as you can meet face to face right now. And we're going to look each other up in the future for sure. As soon as, we all get to travel again and be in person, I'm looking forward to like actually like our paths crossing for real and not just like ships in the night at these conferences. So I'm ready for it. I am so appreciative of this time and you sharing so much of your journey and your insight with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, absolutely. And have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy that beautiful North Carolina weather.
Yep.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.